It's 20 millimeter RPG. Rick here. And uh, talk about how to get your group started into actually role playing. I see a lot of fellow streamers out there. You guys know who you are. Um, and I don't see a lot of role playing from you guys. So, in order for you to get a group together to actually role play and get some results, which would be kind of similar to what I do, as well as RPG is Dumb, and a few others that are out there too. If you want something cinematic and you want to have a game session to go boom, 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 you get through a lot in a session. For my instance, I have 90 minutes that I can spare. So I want to make the most of that 90 minutes with my group. And the way that you have to start off, you get yourself a group of players that want to try this out. They want to do the role playing, full on role playing. No talking out of character, and no talking mechanics. None of that stuff. There's no metagaming. You gotta have your session 0. So this is what I'm gonna talk about is getting the group together and discussing the session 0. Now you also need to have a pretty decent game system, which is not exacting as in, board gamey kind of rules. You don't want to have a system that has, a lot of, figuring out, distances, that sort of stuff. You want to kind of shy away from that. You can use basic, the traditional AD&D second edition or advanced Dungeons and Dragons. You can use old D&D. You can also use, any kind of old OSR kind of stuff, which emulates that AD&D experience. For me, I use Traveler. Traveler's pretty easy to use, as well as the Cipher system is also very good to use with that too. The key is to have it as few rolls to get a resolution as possible. So that's the key here. Once you've decided what kind of game that you want to play mechanics wise, and you get down to brass tacks with your players, you're gonna have to explain to them, okay, so this is what we're doing. I as the GM, I'm just gonna be a narrator. Okay, so I'll give you a little bit of exposition on what's happening, in order to get everybody into the situation. Then we'll start in media res. That's usually how I recommend, your players starting off in the middle of something. It could be anything. It could be they're all driving in a van driving to a location. Maybe they're getting some fast food someplace or whatever. That sounds pretty mundane. But we're going to, you're going to add in different things that's going to happen. A UFO is going to come down and try and abduct them or something like that. Or, it's, or whatever. If you're playing like a fantasy, well, you're going to have a situation where they are right at the door opening up the entryway to a long forgotten ancient crypt or whatever it is that you have. You want to have them there starting, bonding together in the situation, because you don't want to have to go ahead and take players from different parts of, say, a tavern and then introduce them in together and try to herd cats. And you don't want to do that. So you have to have some sort of situation, like an idea of how you want this game to go. And you want it to be cinematic. You want it to flow very quickly. Your players, your players will have to participate in, and get them to practice this. Is try to ask questions in character. So that is going to be the key here. Now, a lot of you guys rag on me and say, well, not a lot of you, but there's a few of you that say you shouldn't tell everybody to not ask questions. Well, I mean, not ask questions as you. You want to ask questions as your character. So as long as you're asking within the bounds of your character, you can usually get an answer, and you're expecting the answer to come back as a narration, not as a back and forth with the game master, with Mother May I question. That's a problem, because then you get out of context with your character. You must always remain in character during the session. So also the game master should also keep his keep that a low profile, but keep his descriptions fairly brief, but describing the important things in the area. And the game master assumes that whoever's in the back is going to be like checking their six all the time, right? In the party, or the guy in front who's a thief is going to be naturally, keeping his eye out for any kind of suspicious looking stuff. That's a given. The players don't have to say, I'm doing, this. I'm making sure that, everything in front of me is safe, or everything behind me isn't going to sneak up. If it happens, it's going to happen. Okay. There's going to be a roll to see whether or not it surpassed your ability to see something or something like that. You do not have to indicate that you're as a game master, you should be smart enough to know that your players are going to be doing what they can in order to survive. And the players must also have the faith and trust of the GM that the GM is going to be playing, like foreseeing their characters doing such things. So do that. Reassure them during your session 0 that that's what's going to happen. That's going to reduce a whole lot of questioning going on. So this allows your players to, in the situations, to do what they want. The players don't have to say, can I climb that wall? Your players will just say, I will attempt to climb that wall. And as a game master, you can give some narration insight on that or whatever. You can give them a chance of climbing up there. Or, you can say that, well, climbing up there looks like it won't, it runs into a dead end up there. But climbing up there would give you an advantage if you're kind of trying to leap on something or something like that. Certainly. I mean, you don't know what the player's motives are or whatever, or what. Everything should be one action at a time in order to explain, what you're doing. So a player does not say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and approach the door. I'm going to look for traps. And if there's no traps, I'm going to try the doorknob. But if the doorknob doesn't turn, I'm going to do this or that. Don't do that. Just say, I am approaching the door, observing its surroundings, and, seeing whether or not I can try the knob. And that's as far as you go, So you approach, you do. Then your next action will be, attempting to open it. It could jiggle. You could get attacked before that even happens. There could be a surprise. Bam, something happens. A game master has things in place. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Your thief will be rolling the dexterity rolls, and stuff like that, or whatever, or his the way that he views traps. He may have to do a search for traps roll, and that way you're doing something and the results end up being a roll instead of you having to do rolls based on things that could happen. Okay? Because you don't want that to happen. You want it to be more natural. It doesn't make sense if you're going to be going down a hallway. Okay, roll for traps. Why? If there's no traps there, why would you bother having the player to roll for traps? If there's a trap there, your player is moving along trying to, make sure he's safe, and as soon as there's a trap, you tell him to roll, you roll for see if you detect this trap. You don't tell him it's you just say detect for traps. You only do that when there is a trap involved, okay? Players don't ever ask to do a roll. It's the game master that asks, his players to do a roll, and only when it is necessary. Okay, makes the game flow way much faster, and you have more fun at it too. I see a lot of players out there in the streams. They are preoccupied. They're doing something else while they're in the game. They're sometimes they leave, they take off. They're doing something in the kitchen or whatever, leaving their image of their backdrop and an empty seat, or they're playing on the phone. They're doing something on the phone, and they're not actually listening to what's happening. My players in my games, you watch my live plays, they are there. They are like intrigued. They are like immersed in what they are doing. And there might be an occasion where they have to leap out of the chair and go do something. That's fine. It's life. Stuff happens behind you. Sometimes my phone goes off when the alarm company's phoning me about my store or something like that. Stuff will happen, okay? That's fine, but you try to limit those things from happening as much as possible. What else? So once you've established your session 0, you're talking about what kind of a thing you're going to get into, what kind of a what kind of a feel do you want in this game? Do you want it to be horror? Do you want it to be, realistic? Do you want it to be more superhero-y, you want it to be totally fantasy, high fantasy, you want it to be low fantasy. You discuss all those things there and then. You then you get your players, lined up with, stay in character, no out of character talking. And you have to do this every once in a while because it's a skill. This is a skill. It's like me grabbing that guitar in the background there, and hitting. If I hit a couple of strings, does that make me a guitar player? Going ping ping ping. Ping woo ping woo. It doesn't make you a guitar player. It's the same thing with role playing. If you're not role playing, you're not role playing. Okay. And I see too much of this out there. So I'm just saying, if you want to try this kind of a thing and do it. And the reason why I'm doing it is because I want to have a game session where people can watch it and not go, oh, I can't handle this anymore. There's just nothing happening here. They're just all talking about different things. They're talking about what they ate for supper last night. They're talking about their favorite, real world drink, and how to mix it. Or they're doing everything but playing the game. So for me, I want my players there in their seats, intrigued for the next hour and a half. And once we're done the session, boom, we're done. And you're going to be like, oh my God, that was like crazy stuff. I can't believe what we went through there. Oh, that was cool. Way you did that there, Spencer. I like how you did that there, Josh. And we have a little bit of a yak at the end of that you don't see, at the end of my session, and we talk about different things, and we kind of cool down because this brings up a lot. It's brain power. You're using your brain in a certain way, and you talk about things that maybe we could have improved it this way. Or what did you guys think about how we did the combat this time? You guys like that? And then we all talk about that sort of stuff. And it's a group thing. So the players have some input on how they thought the session went, and how they think maybe we should try this next time, and write that stuff down. Your players have some great ideas sometimes, and every player is different. So you're going to get, different things that they want. Maybe they want more role play instead of rolling dice, or vice versa. Maybe they want to do some more combat-y kind of stuff and do more dice rolling. Have the odds, of the dice rolls more integral with the game session. So it's all up to your players and you how you want this to go. But in the end, what you're not going to have is players being absent from the table, waiting for people to do their turn. You're not going to have the situations where it's just you're moving icons up a thing. You're having problems, sharing certain things, the screen. You're having problems, going targeting, different icons and stuff, or you're having to explain certain things in the virtual tabletop to them. You try to cut out as much of that as possible. I do a little bit of reinforcement with the virtual tabletop. Sometimes they forget that they can find the old image files in a certain spot, or they forget where they can find the roll to do the thing, for their skill roll or something like that. But after a few sessions, they start to, recognize things in the virtual tabletop because they've been doing it over and over again. But definitely, if you want to go ahead and try something like that, that's the first step that you want to do is get your group together, get all the everything lined up, how to play, how we're going to do this, what we're going to do, and stick with the rules and try to stay with the rules as much as possible. Do a little bit of practice. That's fine. You can do little one-on-one practices with each one of your players to try and key in, because you as a game master, you got to develop this skill too. So, and then once you feel comfortable doing that, go ahead and you got your session going, boom, put up the timer, go ahead and do your 2 hours, whatever it is that you have designated for your game session, and play, do it, and all stay in character and see how that works. You don't know what it's like until you're in there and you've done it and you're going, wow, what the heck have I been doing all these years? You're not gonna look at other game sessions the same again. I can guarantee you that. All right. So if you like what you see, like what you hear, you want to learn more, as I learn from you, you learn from me, we learn from everyone, just hit that subscribe button. Just do it. Do it. It's calling for you. It's saying, hit it. Hit the button. Do it.